What if you're saving diligently for a future you might never fully enjoy, missing out on life-changing experiences in the present? What if your fear of running out of money is causing you to hoard wealth, leaving you with regrets when it's too late to act? In Die with Zero, Bill Perkins addresses the common problem of living on autopilot, prioritizing endless saving over meaningful experiences and risking a life half-lived. By reading this book, you'll discover practical strategies to optimize your time, money, and health, ensuring you maximize fulfillment and create lasting memories before it's too late. 9 Money Rules for Living Before Dying. Die with Zero by Bill Perkins. Rule No. 1. Maximize your positive life experiences. Rule No. 2. Start investing in experiences early. Rule No. 3. Aim to die with zero. Rule No. 4. Use all available tools to help you die with zero. Rule No. 5. Give money to your children or to charity when it has the most impact. Rule No. 6. Don't live your life on autopilot. Rule No. 7. Think of your life as distinct seasons. Rule No. 8. Know when to stop growing your wealth. Rule No. 9. Take your biggest risks when you have little to lose. Let's go to deep dive. Rule No. 1. Maximize your positive life experiences. Perkins, an energy trader with an engineer's knack for optimization, isn't here to tell you how to grow your wealth or pinch pennies. Instead, he's obsessed with a different kind of math: how to squeeze every drop of fulfillment from the finite time you have on this planet. He sees life as an optimization problem, where the goal isn't to amass the biggest bank account, but to create a life rich with experiences that light you up. These experiences, whether they're grand adventures or quiet moments with loved ones, are the currency of a life well lived. Perkins argues that we're all too often stuck on autopilot, following societal defaults that prioritize work and saving over joy and connection. His first rule is a wake-up call: stop drifting and start deliberately choosing experiences that make your life feel full. Let's start with one of the book's most poignant examples: the story of Erin and John. In 2008, Erin and her husband John were thriving lawyers in Iowa, raising 3 young children. Life was busy but good, until John, just 35, was diagnosed with clear cell sarcoma, a rare and aggressive cancer. A routine checkup revealed a tumor the size of a baseball, and by the time doctors caught it, the cancer had spread to his back and leg bones. The diagnosis was a devastating blow, leaving Erin to juggle the emotional weight of John's illness, their family's needs, and their financial stability. Perkins, a childhood friend of Erin's, urged her to stop working and focus on time with John while he was still here. "Stop what you're doing," he told her, "and spend time as a family while John still can." Erin was already leaning in that direction, and she made the courageous choice to quit her job. For the next 3 months, between John's grueling cancer treatments, they embraced simple, everyday moments: trips to the park, watching movies, playing video games, and picking up their kids from school together. When John's condition worsened, they traveled to Boston for a clinical trial, squeezing in historic tours while he could still walk. Those moments, though fleeting, became priceless. John passed away in January 2009, just 3 months after his diagnosis. Reflecting on that time, Erin carries the pain of loss, but no regret for choosing family over work. She knew, as Perkins emphasizes, that time was the one resource she couldn't get back. This story hits hard because it forces us to confront a universal truth: our time is finite, and death can come sooner than we expect. Perkins uses Erin and John's experience to illustrate why maximizing positive life experiences matters. Most of us don't face such stark circumstances, but we all grapple with the same challenge: how to make the most of our limited time on Earth. Perkins argues that we often act as if we have infinite time, delaying gratification for a future that might not come or might find us too frail to enjoy. John's story is extreme, but it's a powerful reminder that waiting too long to prioritize experiences can leave us with regrets we can't undo. Perkins doesn't stop at emotional appeals. He grounds his rule in a practical framework. He introduces the concept of life energy, the hours you have to live and do things. Every dollar you earn costs some of that energy, whether it's hours spent at a desk or years grinding away at a job you don't love. The trick, he says, is to convert that money into experiences that maximize your fulfillment. But what does that look like? For Perkins, it's personal. He loves poker and travel, so he spends heavily on poker tournaments and global adventures. He's not saying you should do the same. Maybe your joy comes from hiking, cooking with family, or volunteering. The point is to identify what lights you up and make it happen, ideally at the right time in your life. Another example from the book brings this home. Perkins reflects on his own life in his early 20s, when he was a lowly screen clerk on Wall Street, earning a measly $18,000 a year. He was proud of his thriftiness, saving every penny he could in a tiny Manhattan apartment he shared with a roommate. One day, he bragged to his boss, Joe Farrell, about saving $1,000, a big deal on his salary. Joe's response was a verbal slap. "Are you a *****ing idiot? To save that money." Joe pointed out that Perkins wasn't going to stay at $18,000 forever. He'd taken the job to make millions, so why hoard pennies now when his earning potential was only going up? This moment flipped Perkins' perspective, introducing him to consumption smoothing, the idea that you should balance spending across your life, enjoying money when you're young and broke rather than saving it all for a wealthier future self. This encounter with Joe Farrell underscores a key aspect of rule number 1, timing matters. Perkins argues that certain experiences are best enjoyed at specific ages. Take his friend Jason Ruffo, who borrowed $10,000 from a loan shark to backpack across Europe in his early 20s. Jason's stories of exploring Dachau, sipping wine in Paris, and falling in love on a Greek beach left Perkins envious. By the time Perkins traveled to Europe at 30, he was too old for youth hostels and too tied down by responsibilities to fully embrace the adventure. The lesson? Some experiences, like backpacking or physical adventures, are richest when you're young and unencumbered. Waiting too long can mean missing out entirely. Perkins also introduces the idea of a fulfillment curve, a way to visualize the sum of your life's experiences. Imagine assigning experience points to each activity based on how much joy it brings you. A year of thrilling travel might earn 5,000 points, while a quiet weekend gardening might earn 500 for one person, but 0 for another. By plotting these points over time, you create a curve where the area underneath represents your total lifetime fulfillment. The goal is to maximize that area by choosing the right experiences at the right ages. For example, Perkins shares how he gave his father, too frail for new adventures, an iPad loaded with digitized highlight reels from his college football days at the University of Iowa. Watching those clips brought his father joy, laughter, and nostalgia, a reminder that when physical experiences are no longer possible, memories become your retirement fund. This brings us to another critical insight. Experiences don't just matter in the moment. They pay a memory dividend. Perkins explains that unlike material possessions, which lose their shine, experiences grow in value as you relive them. Think of your best vacation, maybe a week-long trip to Italy. You spent hours showing photos to friends, reminiscing with travel companions, or giving advice to others planning a similar trip. Each recollection adds to the original experience's value, like dividends from a stock. Perkins points out that tech companies like Facebook monetize this by prompting you with on this day photos, sparking joy and connection. By investing in experiences, you're not just buying a moment. You're building a bank of memories that enrich your life for years. But maximizing experiences isn't about spending recklessly. Perkins is clear. You need to balance enjoyment with survival. He's not advocating for the grasshopper's carefree approach from the fable of the ant and the grasshopper, where the grasshopper plays all summer and starves in winter. Instead, he wants you to be a smarter ant, one who works to survive but also plays to thrive. For example, Perkins shares how he loves hosting extravagant events, like his 45th birthday party in St. Bart's, where he flew in friends and hired Maroon 5. That event cost a fortune, but the memories of dancing under the stars with people he loves are priceless. For you, the experience might be smaller, like a family picnic or a local concert, but the principle is the same. Choose what matters to you and make it happen. Perkins also addresses the diversity of experiences. What maximizes your fulfillment depends on who you are. Some people find joy in adventure. Think skydiving or trekking the Himalayas, while others prefer quiet moments, like reading to their kids or volunteering. Perkins himself mixes hedonistic pleasures, poker, travel, with philanthropy, like aiding hurricane relief in the U.S. Virgin Islands. The key is intentionality. He warns against coasting through life, letting work or fear of spending dictate your choices. Instead, he urges you to ask, what experiences do I want, and when can I best enjoy them? One final example from the book ties this together. Perkins reflects on his friend John Arnold, a billionaire who retired early to focus on philanthropy and family. Arnold could have kept working, amassing even more wealth, but he chose to prioritize experiences, like spending time with his kids, over chasing more money. This choice aligns with Perkins' rule: don't sacrifice life energy for wealth you won't use. Arnold's decision to step away from the grind shows how even the ultra-wealthy can apply rule number 1, focusing on experiences that matter most. So, how do you start maximizing your positive life experiences? Perkins offers a practical recommendation. List the experiences you want, big or small, and estimate how many times you'd like to have them. Maybe it's 1 epic safari, 10 family vacations, or weekly dinners with friends. Then, consider the timing. When are you physically and financially best suited to enjoy them? Use tools like the Die with Zero app, mentioned later in the book, to simulate spending scenarios and ensure you're not oversaving at the expense of living. The goal isn't perfection, but progress, moving away from autopilot toward a life filled with moments that make you feel alive. Rule No. 2. Start investing in experiences early. The time to live is now. Investing in experiences early. Imagine you're 22, fresh out of college, scraping by on an entry-level salary, and dreaming of far-off adventures. A backpacking trip through Europe, maybe, or a cross-country road trip with friends. You tell yourself you'll do it someday, when you've got more money, more time, fewer responsibilities. But what if someday comes too late, when your body can't keep up or life's obligations weigh you down? This is the heart of Bill Perkins' second rule in Die with Zero. Start investing in experiences early. Why timing is everything when it comes to life's richest moments. Dive into the stories Perkins shares to bring this rule to life, and discover how you can start making memories now, no matter where you are in life. Perkins, an energy trader with a knack for cutting through life's noise, isn't just talking about spending money on fun stuff. He's urging you to see experiences as investments that shape who you are and how you remember your life. Rule number 1 was about maximizing positive experiences. Rule number 2 zooms in on when to make those investments. Perkins argues that life is the sum of your experiences, and their value isn't just in the moment, but in the memory dividend, the joy you get from reliving those moments years later. The catch? Many experiences have an expiration date, tied to your age, health, or your stage of life. Wait too long, and you might miss the window to enjoy them fully. Let's start with the story that Perkins uses to drive this home: his friend Jason Ruffo. Back in the early 20s, he and Jason were roommates in New York, grinding it out as screen clerks on Wall Street, earning a measly $18,000 a year. Money was tight. Think shared apartments, ramen dinners, and counting subway fares. One day, Jason dropped a bombshell. He was taking a 3-month backpacking trip across Europe. To fund it, he borrowed $10,000 from a loan shark, a move so bold it made Perkins' head spin. Perkins, ever the practical one, thought Jason was out of his mind. Why risk debt and derail his career for a trip? He stayed behind, saving his pennies and focusing on his job. But when Jason came back, everything changed. He regaled Perkins with tales of wandering through Prague's historic streets, visiting the haunting Dachau concentration camp, sipping wine in Paris under a moonlit sky, and falling in love on a sun-soaked Greek beach in Greece. Those experiences weren't just stories. They were life-altering, shaping Jason's perspective and leaving him with a treasure trove of memories. Perkins, stuck in his Manhattan cubicle, felt a pang of envy. By the time he finally got around to traveling to Europe at age 30, he was pushing 30, with a mortgage and a demanding job. The youth hostels where Jason had bonded with fellow travelers felt out of reach. The carefree vibe of backpacking was no longer his. Perkins realized he'd missed the sweet spot for that kind of adventure, one best savored when you're young, unencumbered, and open to the world's possibilities. Jason's story is the cornerstone of rule number 2 because it shows why investing in experiences early matters. Perkins explains that certain experiences, like backpacking, physical challenges, or spontaneous adventures, are richest in your youth 20s, when you've got energy, health, and flexibility. Your body can handle long hikes or sleepless nights in a hostel. Your life isn't yet tangled with kids, mortgages, or career golden handcuffs. Wait until your 40s or 50s, and even if you've got the cash, you might not have the stamina or context to enjoy them the same way. Perkins isn't saying you can't travel later in life, but the experience of that trip changes. A 50-year-old in a hostel might feel like a fish out of water. A 60-year-old might opt for a cruise instead of a trek. The key is to seize experiences when they're most vibrant for you. Perkins builds on this by introducing the idea of experience points, a way to quantify what brings you to joy. Imagine assigning a score based on how much an activity means to you. Backpacking through Europe might earn Jason 5,000 points in his 20s, but only 2,000 in his 40s, when he's got a family and a corner office. A quiet weekend gardening might score 500 points for someone else, but 0 for Jason. By thinking in terms of experience points, you can visualize your life's fulfillment curve, the total satisfaction from your experiences over time. The goal? Maximize the area under that curve by choosing the right experiences at the right ages. Starting early means you're stacking up points when the returns are highest. Another example from the book reinforces this. Perkins reflects on his own life, recalling how he initially scoffed at spending money on experiences in his 20s. He was proud of saving $1,000, a big deal on his clerk's salary, until his boss, Joe Farrell, called him out. "Are you ing idiot?" Joe asked, pointing out that Perkins was on a path to millions. Why hoard pennies now when he'd have plenty later? This moment introduced Perkins to consumption smoothing, spending money when you're young and broke to enjoy life, knowing your earning potential will grow. It's why Jason's loan shark gamble wasn't as crazy as it seemed. That $10,000 debt was an investment in memories that paid dividends for decades, unlike the $1,000 Perkins saved, which sat in a bank doing nothing for his soul. The memory dividend is a big deal here. Perkins explains that experiences, unlike gadgets or cars, grow in value over time. That trip to Europe? Jason didn't just enjoy it in his 20s. He relived it every time he told the stories, showed photos, or advised friends on their travels. Those moments became a mental photo album, more precious than any material possession. Perkins compares this to grabbing your favorite photos in a house fire. You'd save the memories, not the furniture. By investing early, you're building a bank of these dividends, enriching your life long after the experience ends. But what about the risks? Borrowing $10,000 from a loan shark sounds reckless, right? Perkins is clear. He's not advocating for financial ruin. Rule number 2 is about calculated investments, not YOLO spending. Jason's trip was bold but planned. He knew he'd pay off the debt with his Wall Street trajectory. Perkins suggests starting small if money's tight. Maybe it's a weekend road trip with friends, a local festival, or a cooking class you've always wanted to try. The point is to prioritize experiences over endless saving, even if they're modest. For example, Perkins shares how he loves simple pleasures like poker nights with friends, low cost, but high value in joy and connection. Early investments don't need to break the bank, they just need to matter to you. Perkins also touches on the diversity of experiences. What's early depends on your life stage, and what's fulfilling depends on you. For some, it's adventure. Think skydiving or surfing in Bali. For others, it's quieter moments, like taking your parents on a trip while they're still healthy. He mentions his friend John Arnold, who retired early to focus on family and philanthropy, choosing experiences over more wealth. Even billionaires, Perkins notes, can apply this rule by prioritizing time with loved ones over another deal. The principle holds whether you're 22 or 52. Invest in experiences when you're best positioned to enjoy them. So, how do you put rule number 2 into action? Perkins offers a practical tip. List experiences you want and pin them to specific ages. Maybe it's a music festival in your 20s, a family vacation in your 30s, or a cooking tour in your 50s. Then, make a plan, budget, schedule, commit. Don't let "I'll do it later" steal your moments. If you're worried about money, use tools like the Die with Zero app, mentioned later in the book, to balance spending with survival needs. The goal is to break free from the default mode of saving for a vague future and start living now. Rule No. 3. Aim to die with zero. The art of spending it all, aiming to die with zero. Picture yourself at 80, sitting in a cozy armchair, looking back on a life filled with adventures, laughter, and moments that made your heart sing. Now imagine checking your bank account and seeing a mountain of money, millions, maybe, that you never touched. Sounds like a win, right? Not to Bill Perkins. In Die with Zero, his third rule, aim to die with zero, challenges the instinct to hoard wealth and urges you to use your money to fuel a life of meaning, not a legacy of unspent cash. Over the next, explore the stories Perkins shares to bring it to life and discover why spending your wealth wisely is the ultimate act of living fully. Perkins, an energy trader turned life philosopher, isn't suggesting you blow your savings on a whim or leave yourself penniless. His point is deeper. Money only has value when it's used to create experiences, support loved ones, or make a difference. Hoarding it for its own sake, like racking up points in a video game, is a waste of your life energy, the finite hours you've traded to earn that wealth. Rule number 3 is about breaking free from the societal script that equates a big bank balance with success, and instead aiming to spend it all purposefully before you go. It's a bold mindset shift, one that Perkins admits even shocks his friends. Let's start with a story that captures the essence of this rule. Perkins recounts a conversation with his doctor, Chris Renna, who asked if he feared running out of money. Perkins' response was a jaw-dropper. "I hope I run out of money." Renna was stunned, but Perkins explained his logic. He'd rather spend his wealth on experiences, like poker tournaments, travel, or epic parties with friends, than let it sit idle. To him, dying with millions in the bank is like working your whole life for a prize you never claim. This exchange stuck with Perkins because it revealed how deeply ingrained the fear of spending is. Most of us save obsessively, worried about outliving our money, but Perkins argues we're more likely to outlive our ability to enjoy it. To back this up, Perkins leans on data that paints a stark picture. He cites Federal Reserve statistics showing that the average net worth of elderly households in the U.S. is substantial, often hundreds of thousands or more. Yet, these households typically spend down just a tiny fraction of their wealth, donating only about 1% annually to charity. Even billionaires like Bill Gates, known for philanthropy, struggle to give away their fortunes fast enough. Perkins sees this as a tragedy. Money saved for a future you may not live to see, or can't fully enjoy due to declining health, is money squandered. He contrasts this with the fable of the ant and the grasshopper, where the ant's relentless saving leaves no room for joy. Perkins isn't advocating for the grasshopper's recklessness, but for a smarter balance, using your wealth to live richly now, not just later. Another example brings this home. Perkins shares the story of his friend Virginia Collin, who faced financial struggles in her youth, but received a small inheritance later in life. By then, the money was nice, but less transformative. Had she received it in her 20s or 30s, it could have eased significant stress, perhaps funding education or a home. This story underscores a key insight. Money's impact depends on timing. Perkins argues that leaving large sums in your will often misses the mark. Your kids or charities might benefit more from that money now, when it can change their lives. Aiming to die with zero means giving strategically while you're alive, not postponing impact until you're gone. Perkins also draws inspiration from philanthropist Chuck Feeney, who embodies this rule. Feeney, the billionaire co-founder of Duty-Free Shoppers, made it his mission to give away his entire fortune during his lifetime. Through his Atlantic Philanthropies Foundation, he funded education, healthcare, and peace initiatives, donating over $8 billion by 2016. By 2020, at age 89, Feeney achieved his goal. He closed his foundation with almost nothing left, living modestly on a small pension. Perkins admires Feeney's approach because it maximizes impact. Feeney saw the results of his giving, from new university buildings to lives saved, rather than leaving it to a will. This example shows that dying with zero isn't just for personal fulfillment. It's about making your money work for others when it matters most. But what about the fear of running out of cash? Perkins gets it. Nobody wants to end up broke. He clarifies that die with zero is an aspiration, not a literal mandate. You need a safety net for essentials like healthcare or unexpected costs. Later in the book, he introduces tools like life expectancy calculators and annuities to plan spending without going bust. For now, though, the The focus is mindset. Stop seeing a big bank account as the goal and start seeing it as a means to an end. Perkins shares a personal anecdote about his love for extravagant events, like his 45th birthday bash in St. Bart's, where he flew in friends and hired Maroon 5. That party cost a fortune, but the memories of dancing under the stars with people he loves are worth more than any stockpile of cash. Aiming to die with zero means prioritizing those moments over a number on a balance sheet. Perkins also challenges the cultural obsession with legacy. Many people save to leave a big inheritance, thinking it's their duty. But he asks, is that really what your kids need? He cites data showing that inheritances often come too late, typically in a person's 60s, when they're already established. A $30,000 gift at 30 could help your child buy a home or start a business, compounding over decades. The same amount at 60 might just sit in their savings. Perkins' own experience reinforces this. He's given money to his kids early, helping them with education or ventures, because he wants to see the impact now, not leave it to chance later. This approach flips the script. Your legacy isn't your money. It's the life you enable for others while you're here. So, what does aiming to die with zero look like in practice? Perkins suggests starting with a mental shift. View your wealth as a tool for experiences and impact, not a security blanket. List the experiences you want, maybe a dream trip, a family reunion, or a cause you care about, and estimate their cost. Then, plan when to spend, using tools like the Die with Zero app to balance enjoyment with survival. If you're young, this might mean smaller investments, like a weekend getaway. If you're older, it could mean bigger moves, like funding a grandchild's education or a charity. The key is intentionality. Don't let fear or habit keep your money locked away. One final example ties this together. Perkins mentions his friend John Arnold, a billionaire who retired early to focus on philanthropy and family. Arnold could have kept chasing wealth, but he chose to spend his time and money on what matters, experiences with his kids, causes he believes in. This choice aligns with rule number 3. Use your wealth now, when it can shape lives, not later, when it's just a number. Arnold's decision shows that dying with zero isn't about being broke. It's about being rich in meaning. Rule No. 4. Use all available tools to help you die with zero. Tools for a life well spent. Using everything you've got to die with zero. Imagine you're standing at the edge of a vast playground called life, with a wallet full of cash and a ticking clock on your wrist. You want to ride every slide, swing on every bar, and soak up every moment of joy, but there's a nagging voice in your head. What if I run out of money before the game's over? This is where Bill Perkins steps in with his 4th rule and Die with Zero. Use all available tools to help you die with zero. It's not about reckless spending or ignoring the future. It's about arming yourself with practical strategies to spend your wealth on what matters while keeping the lights on. We'll explore this rule, dive into the stories and examples Perkins shares, and uncover how you can plan a life of fulfillment without financial fear. Perkins, with his energy trader's knack for problem solving, knows that aiming to die with zero, spending your wealth on experiences and impact, sounds daunting. Rule number 3 challenged us to rethink hoarding money, but rule number 4 gives us the how-to guide. It's about using tools like life expectancy calculators, annuities, and financial planning to balance bold spending with basic security. Perkins isn't a financial advisor, but he's obsessed with optimizing life, and he wants you to have the confidence to spend on memories without waking up broke. The goal? Convert your life energy, the hours you've worked to earn that money, into a legacy of moments, not a pile of unspent cash. Let's start with a story that sets the stage. Perkins recounts a conversation with his friend, a doctor named Chris Renna, who was baffled by Perkins' cavalier attitude toward money. When Renna asked if he feared running out of cash, Perkins replied, "I hope I run out of money." This wasn't bravado. Perkins meant it. He'd rather spend his wealth on poker tournaments, global adventures, or epic parties than let it sit in a bank, useless. But he also knew this mindset required a safety net. Renna's shock highlighted a common fear. What if you spend too much and end up destitute? Perkins uses this exchange to introduce rule number 4, emphasizing that tools exist to ease that fear, letting you spend freely on experiences while covering essentials. One key tool Perkins highlights is the life expectancy calculator. He mentions resources like the Actuary's Longevity Illustrator, which estimates how long you're likely to live based on factors like age, health, and lifestyle. For example, a healthy 50-year-old man might expect to live to 85, giving him 35 years to plan his spending. Perkins shares how he used such a tool to map out his own life, calculating his survival threshold, the minimum amount needed to cover basics like food, housing, and healthcare until his expected death date. Knowing this number gave him freedom to spend above that threshold on things like his extravagant 45th birthday party in St. Bart's, where he flew in Friends and hired Maroon 5. Without a clear picture of his lifespan, he might have held back, fearing the unknown. The calculator, Perkins argues, is like a GPS for your money, guiding you to spend boldly without veering off a cliff. Another tool Perkins champions is the annuity, a financial product that guarantees income for life, like a personal pension. He dives into the annuity puzzle, noting that economists are baffled by why so few people buy them despite their benefits. For instance, a 65-year-old could invest a lump sum in an annuity and receive monthly payments until death, ensuring they never run dry. Perkins suggests psychological barriers, like fear of losing control over a big chunk of money, keep people away. He shares the example of his friend's parents, who hesitated to buy an annuity because they wanted to keep their savings liquid. But Perkins argues that an annuity can be a game changer, freeing you to spend on experiences without worrying about outliving your cash. It's not for everyone, but it's a tool worth exploring with a financial advisor. Perkins also emphasizes the importance of precautionary savings, a buffer for unexpected costs like medical bills or car repairs. He doesn't dive into a specific story here, but uses his own life as context. As a wealthy trader, he's got a cushion, but he acknowledges that not everyone does. He suggests setting aside a modest reserve, say, a year's worth of expenses, to cover emergencies, then spending the rest on what brings joy. For example, Perkins loves hosting poker nights, a low-cost way to connect with friends. Knowing he's got a safety net lets him splurge on bigger experiences, like chartering a yacht for a family trip, without sweating the what-ifs. This balance, security plus spending, is what rule number 4 is all about. A broader example from the book ties this together. Perkins' friend John Arnold, a billionaire who retired early to focus on philanthropy and family. Arnold didn't just quit working. He used financial tools to ensure he could give generously and live richly without risking his future. While Perkins doesn't detail Arnold's exact strategies, he implies that tools like investment planning and charitable trusts helped Arnold align his wealth with his values. This shows that rule number 4 isn't just for the ultra-wealthy. It's for anyone who wants to spend purposefully. Whether you're a billionaire or a teacher, tools like budgeting apps, financial advisors, or even simple spreadsheets can help you map out a plan to die with zero. Perkins also touches on the Die with Zero app, a digital tool he created to simulate earning and spending scenarios. Imagine plugging in your income, expenses, and dream experiences, like a safari or a kid's college fund, and seeing how your wealth plays out over time. Perkins shares how he used a similar approach to plan his own spending, ensuring he could fund adventures like hurricane relief in the U.S. Virgin Islands while covering his survival threshold. The app, he says, is like a video game for your life, letting you test different choices without real-world consequences. It's a modern twist on the calculators and annuities, making planning accessible and even fun. But tools alone aren't enough. You need the mindset to use them. Perkins warns against the default mode of hoarding money out of fear, citing data from the Federal Reserve showing that elderly households often die with significant wealth, hundreds of thousands, on average. He sees this as a missed opportunity, like leaving a winning lottery ticket unclaimed. For example, he mentions philanthropist Chuck Feeney, who gave away $8 billion during his lifetime, using financial planning to maximize impact. Feeney's tools, trusts, advisors, and strategic giving let him die with almost nothing while transforming lives. Perkins wants you to channel that same intentionality, using tools to spend on what matters to you. So, how do you apply rule number 4? Perkins suggests starting small. Try a life expectancy calculator online to estimate your timeline. Then, calculate your survival threshold, basic expenses times your expected years left. Next, explore tools like annuities or budgeting apps to see what fits your life. If you're unsure, consult a financial advisor to tailor a plan. For inspiration, think of Perkins' Street Bart's Party, a lavish spend made possible by knowing his basics were covered. Your version might be a family vacation or a donation to a cause you love. The key is using tools to gain confidence, so you can spend without fear. As we wrap up, let's revisit Chris Rennie's shock at Perkins' run out of money comment. That moment captures the fear rule number 4 tackles. With tools like calculators, annuities, and planning, you don't have to choose between living richly and staying safe. Perkins' challenge is clear. Don't let your wealth sit idle, gathering dust. Use every tool at your disposal to turn your money into memories, impact, and a life well lived. Start today. Your playground's waiting. Rule No. 5. Give money to your children or to charity when it has the most impact. Imagine you're holding a stack of cash, ready to hand it over to someone you love, your kids, maybe, or a cause that stirs your soul. You've worked hard for this money, trading years of your life to earn it, and you want it to matter. But when's the best time to give? Most of us default to leaving it in a will, thinking that's the responsible thing to do. Bill Perkins, in Die with Zero, flips this script with his 5th rule. Give money to your children or to charity when it has the most impact. Explore the stories Perkins shares and see how giving strategically can amplify your legacy while you're still here to witness it. Perkins, with his energy trader's knack for optimization, isn't just talking about generosity, he's talking about timing. Rule number 5 builds on the idea of dying with zero by urging you to give your money when it can do the most good, not when you're gone. He argues that money's value lies in its ability to change lives, whether it's helping your kids build a future or funding a charity's mission. Leaving it all in a will often misses the mark. Your kids might be too old to need it, or a cause might lose urgency. Perkins wants you to give now, strategically, to see the ripple effects of your wealth while you're alive. Let's start with a story that brings this rule to life. Virginia Collin. Perkins met Virginia through a mutual friend and learned about her early struggles. In her youth, she faced financial hardship, scraping by to make ends meet. Later in life, she received a small inheritance from a relative. By then, the money was welcome but less transformative. It didn't erase the stress of those earlier years. Perkins uses this example to highlight a key insight. A gift's impact depends on when it's given. Had Virginia received that inheritance in her 20s or 30s, it could have funded education, eased debt, or opened doors to a more stable life. Instead, it came too late to make a big difference. This story underscores why Perkins challenges the tradition of posthumous giving. Money given now can solve problems or create opportunities that fade with time. Perkins backs this up with data. He cites Federal Reserve statistics showing that the average inheritance in the U.S. arrives when people are in their 60s, often too late to be life-changing. A $30,000 gift at 30 could help your child buy a home, start a business, or pay off student loans, setting them on a path to financial security. The same amount at 60 might just pad their savings. Nice, but not transformative. Perkins shares his own approach. He's given money to his kids early, helping with education or ventures, because he wants to see the impact now, not leave it to a will. This isn't about spoiling them. It's about giving when it counts, when their needs and his ability to give align. Another powerful example is philanthropist Chuck Feeney, whom Perkins admires deeply. Feeney, the billionaire co-founder of Duty Free Shoppers, made it his life's mission to give away his entire $8 billion fortune while alive. Through his Atlantic Philanthropies Foundation, he funded education, healthcare, and peace initiatives, from university buildings in Ireland to AIDS clinics in South Africa. By 2020, at age 89, Feeney achieved his goal, closing his foundation with almost nothing left, living modestly on a small pension. Perkins loves this story because Feeney didn't just give. He gave strategically, targeting causes where his money could make a big difference now. Feeney saw the results: students learning in new classrooms, patients receiving care, communities transformed. This is rule number 5 in action: giving when the impact is greatest, not delaying it for a will. Perkins also shares a personal anecdote that adds a lighter touch. He loves hosting extravagant events, like his 45th birthday party in St. Bart's, where he flew in friends and hired Maroon 5. That party wasn't just about fun, it was a gift to his loved ones, creating shared memories that resonate years later. Perkins sees this as a form of giving, too, using money to bring people together when they can all enjoy it. He contrasts this with waiting to leave money in a will, which might fund a party no one attends. The lesson? Give experiences, not just cash, when they'll mean the most, whether it's a family trip or a charity gala. But what about the fear of giving too much? Perkins gets it. Nobody wants to run out of money or enable dependency in their kids. He clarifies that rule number 5 isn't about emptying your bank account recklessly. It's about planning, using tools like those in rule number 4, life expectancy calculators, annuities, to ensure you've got enough for your own needs. For example, Perkins mentions his friend John Arnold, a billionaire who retired early to focus on philanthropy and family. Arnold didn't just give blindly. He used financial planning to balance generous giving with his own security. This shows that rule number 5 works for any income level. Whether you're giving $500 to a local food bank or $50,000 to your kids' education, the key is timing and intention. Perkins also addresses the psychological hurdles of giving. Many people cling to their wealth, fearing loss of control or worrying their kids will squander it. He suggests starting small, maybe a modest gift to a charity or a contribution to a grandchild's college fund. He shares how he supported hurricane relief in the U.S. Virgin Islands, a cause close to his heart, and felt the joy of seeing immediate results. These smaller acts build confidence, showing you can give without risking your future. Over time, you can scale up, using tools like trusts or donor-advised funds to structure larger gifts, as Feeney did. So, how do you apply rule number 5? Perkins offers a practical approach. List the people or causes you want to support, your kids, a sibling, a local shelter. Then, think about when your gift would have the most impact. Is your child starting a business at 25? Is a charity launching a new program now? Next, use tools like the Die with Zero app to simulate how giving fits into your spending plan, ensuring you don't shortchange your own needs. If you're unsure, consult a financial advisor to structure gifts tax efficiently. The goal is to give intentionally, like Feeney, seeing the difference your money makes while you're here. As we wrap up, let's revisit Virginia Collins' story. Her late inheritance was a missed opportunity, not because it wasn't generous, but because it came too late to change her path. Perkins' 5th rule challenges us to avoid that mistake. Whether it's funding your kid's dream, supporting a cause, or throwing a party like Perkins' Street Bart's Bash, give when it matters most. Your wealth is a tool for impact. Don't let it sit idle until you're gone. Start today. Pick one gift, big or small, and make it happen. Your legacy isn't what you leave, it's what you create now. Rule No. 6. Don't live your life on autopilot. Breaking free from the script, living intentionally. Picture yourself cruising through life, hands off the wheel, letting the road of routine carry you forward. You're working long hours, saving diligently, following the rules everyone else seems to obey. Get a job, buy a house, retire at 65. It feels safe, predictable, but deep down, you wonder, is this it? Bill Perkins, in Die with Zero, slams on the brakes with his 6th rule. Don't live your life on autopilot. This rule is a wake-up call to take control, make deliberate choices, and ensure your time, money, and energy align with what truly matters. Explore the stories Perkins shares and discover how to steer your life toward fulfillment. Perkins, with his energy trader's knack for cutting through noise, knows how easy it is to drift. Autopilot is the default mode society hands us. Budgeting rules like 50-30-20, endless work hours, saving for a distant retirement. Rule number 6 challenges you to question these habits and consciously manage 3 key resources: money, health, and free time. These resources shift over your life, like a game of resource allocation. In your 20s, you've got health and time, but little money. In your 50s, you might have money, but less health or time. Perkins argues that living intentionally means trading abundant resources for scarce ones, breaking free from one-size-fits-all routines to maximize your life's joy. Let's start with a story that brings this rule to life. The Staples brothers, Jamie and Matt. Perkins met these professional poker players and noticed they were struggling with their weight, a common issue in their sedentary, high-stress world. In 2017, he made them a bold bet. $150,000 if they could both get within 1% of the same healthy weight within a year. Jamie, the heavier brother, needed to lose significant pounds. Matt, leaner, had to maintain or gain slightly. The catch? They had to work together, aligning their diets and exercise. Perkins wasn't just throwing money around. He was using it to incentivize health, a resource the brothers had been neglecting on autopilot. They took the challenge, overhauled their lifestyles, and hit the target, splitting the prize. This story shows how Perkins used a financial incentive to jolt the brothers out of routine, trading money, his abundant resource, for their health, their scarce one. The Staples brothers' story is a vivid example of rule number 6 because it highlights the cost of coasting. On autopilot, Jamie and Matt might have continued neglecting their health, risking shorter, less vibrant lives. Perkins' bet forced them to make intentional choices: meal planning, gym sessions, accountability. He argues we all need such wake-up calls, whether it's for health, time, or money. Autopilot habits, like working 60-hour weeks or mindlessly saving, can sap your life energy, the finite hours you have to live fully. By living deliberately, you reclaim that energy for what lights you up. Another example Perkins shares is his own early career. In his 20s, as a screen clerk on Wall Street earning $18,000 a year, he was proud of his frugality, saving every penny in a cramped Manhattan apartment. He bragged to his boss, Joe Farrell, about saving $1,000, a big deal on his salary. Joe's response was a blunt reality check. Are you AF *****ing idiot? To save that money. Joe pointed out that Perkins was on a path to millions, so why skimp now? This moment shook Perkins out of autopilot, introducing him to consumption smoothing, spending money when you're young and broke to enjoy life, knowing your earning potential will grow. Instead of hoarding, Perkins started investing in experiences like poker nights or small trips, trading his scarce money for abundant time and health. Perkins also contrasts autopilot with intentional resource management. He introduces the idea of triangles of abundance and scarcity to visualize how money, health, and time shift. In your 20s, your triangle is heavy on health and time, but light on money. By your 50s, money might be plentiful, but health and time dwindle. Living intentionally means exchanging abundant resources for scarce ones. For example, Perkins shares how he hires a cleaner to save time, a scarce resource in his busy 50s. He also mentions a friend who took a sabbatical in their 40s, trading money for time to travel with their kids, something they couldn't do later when health declined. These choices defy autopilot's grind and save mentality, prioritizing what's precious now. A broader example is Perkins' friend John Arnold, a billionaire who retired early to focus on philanthropy and family. On autopilot, Arnold might have kept chasing wealth, climbing the hedge fund ladder. Instead, he made a deliberate choice to trade his abundant money for time, funding causes like education reform and spending days with his kids. Arnold's decision shows that rule number 6 isn't just for the young or middle class. It's for anyone stuck in a default path. By stepping back, Arnold reclaimed his life energy for what aligned with his values, not society's expectations. Perkins also warns against societal traps, like the 50-30-20 budgeting rule: 50% needs, 30% wants, 20% savings. He argues it's a classic autopilot heuristic, fine for some, but disastrous if applied blindly across life stages. A 25-year-old with no debt might want to spend 40% on experiences, like travel, while a 60-year-old might need 60% for healthcare. Perkins shares how he ignored such rules, instead budgeting for experiences like his 45th birthday party in St. Bart's, where he flew in friends and hired Maroon 5. That event was a deliberate choice, trading money for memories when his health and social circle were at their peak. Autopilot would have kept that money in a bank, gathering dust. So, how do you apply rule number 6? Perkins suggests starting with awareness. Audit your life to spot autopilot habits. Are you working overtime out of habit? Saving excessively out of fear? Neglecting health like the Staples brothers? Next, list your resources: money, health, time, and identify what's abundant or scarce. Then, make trades. Spend money to save time, hire help, use time to boost health, exercise, or invest health in experiences. Hike now, not later. Tools like the Die with Zero app, mentioned elsewhere, can help simulate these choices. Perkins' own example, funding hurricane relief in the U.S. Virgin Islands, shows how intentional giving can replace mindless saving, creating impact now. As we wrap up, let's revisit the Staples brothers. Their bet with Perkins wasn't just about weight loss. It was about breaking free from a routine that dulled their lives. Rule number 6 challenges you to do the same. Whether it's skipping a default budget, taking a bold sabbatical, or betting on your health, don't let autopilot steal your life energy. Start today. Pick one habit to question, one resource to trade, and steer toward a life that's yours, not society's. The wheel's in your hands. Where will you go? Rule No. 7. Think of your life as distinct seasons. Living in seasons, timing your life's best moments. Imagine your life as a year. Each phase a season with its own rhythm and flavor. Spring's wild energy, summer's bold adventures, autumn's deep connections, winter's quiet reflection. Now, what if you try to plant flowers in winter or harvest crops in spring? You'd miss the magic of each moment. In Die with Zero, Bill Perkins introduces his 7th rule. Think of your life as distinct seasons. This rule is about matching your experiences to the right stage of life, ensuring you savor each season's unique possibilities. We dive into the stories Perkins shares and learn how to plan your life seasons for maximum fulfillment. Perkins, with his energy trader's knack for strategic timing, knows that life isn't a straight line. It's a series of phases, each with its own strengths and limits. Rule number 7 builds on the idea of investing in experiences early. Rule number 2, by urging you to plan those experiences for when they'll shine brightest. He calls this time bucketing, sorting your dreams into age-specific buckets, like your 20s, 30s, or 60s, based on your health, money, and responsibilities. It's like a bucket list with a calendar, ensuring you don't miss out because you waited too long. Perkins argues that living intentionally means recognizing each season's gifts and aligning your actions accordingly. Let's start with a story that brings this rule to life. Perkins' regret over missing a backpacking trip in his 20s. His roommate, Jason Ruffo, borrowed $10,000 from a loan shark to travel Europe for 3 months, soaking up Prague's history, Paris's romance, and Greece's sunlit beaches. Perkins, then a Wall Street screen clerk earning $18,000 a year, thought Jason was nuts. Why risk debt for a trip? He stayed behind, saving pennies. When Jason returned, bursting with stories, Perkins felt a pang of envy. By the time he traveled to Europe at 30, he was too old for youth hostels and too tied down by a mortgage and job to embrace the carefree vibe. That experience belonged to the season of his 20s, youthful, unencumbered, full of energy. Perkins realized he'd missed its window, a lesson that shaped rule number 7. Match experiences to the season they suit best. This story drives home why time bucketing matters. Perkins explains that each life stage offers unique opportunities. Your 20s are spring, bursting with health and time, but often short on cash. It's the season for physical adventures like backpacking or music festivals, when you can crash on couches and thrive on spontaneity. Your 30s and 40s, summer, bring more money but less time, perfect for family vacations or career-driven goals like starting a business. Autumn, your 50s and 60s, is for deeper experiences, maybe a TED conference or mentoring others, when wisdom and resources align. Winter, your 70s and beyond, favors reflection, like sharing stories with grandkids or revisiting old passions. Misplace an experience, say, trying to backpack in your 60s, and it might lose its spark or be physically impossible. Another example Perkins shares is his 45th birthday party in St. Bart's. He flew in dozens of friends, rented a stunning venue, and hired Maroon 5 to perform under the Caribbean stars. It was a peak moment, made possible by his summer season, mid-40s, financially secure, healthy, and surrounded by a vibrant social circle. Perkins planned it for that season because he knew it wouldn't hit the same at 65, when energy might wane or friends might be less mobile. The party's memories, dancing, laughing, connecting, are a testament to time bucketing done right, capturing the essence of a season when he could go all out. Perkins also draws on a sobering example from Bronnie, where's the top 5 regrets of the dying. where a palliative care nurse documented the regrets of her patients, many of whom wished they'd lived truer to themselves. A common theme? Missing experiences they delayed, travel, time with loved ones, bold risks, because they didn't plan for life seasons. One patient regretted not traveling in their 30s, assuming they'd have time later, only to face illness in their 50s. This echoes Perkins' point. Autopilot planning, saving endlessly, working nonstop, can lead to regrets if you don't bucket experiences for the right season. Time bucketing is a shield against those regrets, a way to live deliberately. A broader example is Perkins' friend John Arnold, a billionaire who retired early to focus on philanthropy and family. Arnold recognized his summer season, 40s, wealthy, healthy, as the time to shift gears. Instead of chasing more money, he bucketed his time for experiences like raising his kids and funding education reform. This wasn't random. Arnold planned for his season, knowing that waiting until his 70s might limit his impact or energy. His choice shows that rule number 7 applies to any life stage or income level. Whether you're planning a grand adventure or a quiet family dinner, timing is key. Perkins also shares a personal touch with his father's story. Too frail for new adventures in his later years, Perkins' father found joy in an iPad loaded with digitized highlight reels from his college football days at the University of Iowa. Watching those clips was perfect for his winter season, reflective, nostalgic, low energy. Perkins bucketed this experience for his father's 70s, knowing it wouldn't have resonated in his 40s, when he was busy coaching or working. This shows that seasons aren't just about big moments. Small, tailored experiences count, too, when timed right. So, how do you apply rule number 7? Perkins suggests creating time buckets. List experiences you want, big, a safari, or small, weekly dinners with friends, and assign them to age ranges based on your health, money, and responsibilities. For example, skiing might go in your 30s bucket when you're fit and can afford it. Attending a TED conference might fit your 50s when you're seeking inspiration. Use tools like the Die with Zero app to simulate how these fit into your financial plan, ensuring you balance enjoyment with security. Perkins' own example, funding hurricane relief in the U.S. Virgin Islands, shows how he buckets giving for his current season, maximizing impact now. What if you're not sure where to start? Perkins advises reflecting on your current season. Are you in spring, with energy to burn? Summer, with resources to share? Map your dreams to your reality, then act. Even small steps count, like a weekend hike in your 20s or a family reunion in your 40s. The key is to avoid autopilot, where you delay everything for a vague someday that may never come. As we wrap up, let's revisit Perkins' missed backpacking trip. That regret taught him that life's seasons are fleeting, each with its own magic. Rule number 7 is your guide to capturing that magic, planning experiences for when they'll shine brightest. Whether it's a St. Bart's Bash, a quiet moment with family, or a bold leap like Arnold's, bucket your dreams for the right season. Start today, pick one experience, assign it a time, and make it happen. Life's seasons are passing, don't let them slip away. Rule No. 8. Know when to stop growing your wealth. Picture yourself at the top of a mountain, breathless from a long climb, your backpack stuffed with gold you've collected along the way. The view is stunning, but you keep climbing, chasing more, even as the air thins and the joy fades. At what point do you stop and savor the view? In Die with Zero, Bill Perkins tackles this question with his 8th rule: know when to stop growing your wealth. This rule is about recognizing your net worth peak, the moment when more money adds little to your life, and redirecting your energy to experiences that truly matter. We dive into the stories Perkins shares and learn how to step off the wealth treadmill to live richly. Perkins, with his energy trader's knack for precision, knows the allure of chasing wealth. Society cheers us on. More money means success, security, status. But rule number 8 challenges this autopilot mindset, urging you to pinpoint when enough is enough. Perkins argues that wealth is a tool, not a goal, and piling it up beyond a certain point costs you life energy, the finite hours you trade for dollars. Past your peak, each extra dollar yields diminishing returns, stealing time from experiences like travel, family, or passions. This rule builds on the idea of dying with zero, rule number 3, by by giving you a framework to stop accumulating and start spending purposefully. Let's start with a story that brings this rule to life. Perkins' friend Andy Schwartz. Andy, a successful entrepreneur, built a thriving business and amassed significant wealth by his 50s. He could have kept pushing, expanding his company, chasing bigger deals, but he paused to reflect. Andy realized he'd hit his net worth peak. He had enough to cover his family's needs, fund his kids' education, and enjoy life without worry. Instead of grinding for more, he sold his business and retired early, choosing to spend his days traveling with his wife, mentoring young entrepreneurs, and coaching his kids' sports teams. Perkins admires Andy's choice because it embodies rule number 8, knowing when to stop climbing and start living. Andy's wealth became a tool for joy, not a scorecard. This story resonates because it counters the cultural pressure to keep growing wealth indefinitely. Perkins cites Federal Reserve data to show that net worth often peaks around age 60 for most Americans, yet many continue working past this point, driven by habit or fear. He argues this is a trap. Past your peak, you're trading precious health and time, resources that dwindle with age, for money you may never use. Perkins introduces the survival threshold, the minimum needed to cover basics like food, housing, and healthcare until your expected death date. Once you've secured that, additional wealth has little impact on happiness. Andy Schwartz knew his threshold, so he stopped chasing and started savoring. Another example Perkins shares is his own life. As a high-stakes energy trader, he earned millions but didn't let wealth define him. He reflects on hosting his 45th birthday party in St. Bart's, flying in friends, and hiring Maroon 5 to perform. That extravagance wasn't about showing off. It was about using his wealth at its peak, when he was healthy, surrounded by friends, and able to create unforgettable memories. Perkins could have kept trading, piling up more millions, but he recognized that his net worth was already enough to fund his passions, like poker tournaments, travel, and philanthropy. By prioritizing experiences over accumulation, he lives rule number 8, ensuring his wealth serves his life, not the other way around. Perkins also draws on a broader example, his friend John Arnold, a billionaire hedge fund manager who retired in his 30s. Arnold's wealth was staggering, but he saw no point in chasing more. He'd hit his net worth peak early, with enough to secure his family's future and fund massive philanthropic efforts, like education reform. Instead of staying in the game, Arnold stepped away, trading money, his abundant resource, for time, his scarce one. Perkins highlights Arnold's choice because it shows that rule number 8 isn't tied to a specific age or income. It's about clarity. Whether you're a billionaire or a teacher, knowing your peak lets you shift from earning to living. A more cautionary example comes from Perkins' observations about elderly households. He cites data showing that many Americans die with significant wealth, hundreds of thousands, on average, because they never stopped growing it. These people, often in their 70s or 80s, saved obsessively, fearing they'd run out of money, only to leave it unspent. Perkins sees this as a tragedy. Money hoarded past the peak could have funded dream trips, family gatherings, or charitable causes. He contrasts this with philanthropist Chuck Feeney, who gave away $8 billion during his lifetime, using his wealth at its peak to transform lives. Feeney's strategic giving shows what's possible when you stop accumulating and start deploying your resources. But how do you know your peak? Perkins suggests practical tools, like the Die with Zero app, which simulates earning and spending scenarios to map your financial trajectory. He shares how he used similar calculations to plan his own spending, ensuring he could fund adventures like hurricane relief in the U.S. Virgin Islands without risking his survival threshold. Another tool is a life expectancy calculator, like the actuary's longevity illustrator, to estimate how long you'll need your money to last. For example, a 50-year-old might plan for 35 more years, calculating their threshold and spending freely above it. Perkins also recommends consulting a financial advisor to tailor these plans, ensuring you balance security with enjoyment. What if you're scared to stop? Perkins gets it. Quitting the wealth chase feels risky, especially if you've tied your identity to earning. He advises starting small. Cut back work hours, take a sabbatical, or spend on a modest experience, like a family dinner. He shares how he loves simple poker nights with friends, a low-cost way to test living over earning. These steps build confidence, showing you can shift gears without crashing. Over time, you can make bigger moves, like Andy Schwartz's retirement or Arnold's philanthropy, aligning your wealth with your life's purpose. So, how do you apply rule number 8? Perkins suggests 3 steps. First, calculate your survival threshold. Basic expenses times your expected years left. Second, use tools like the Die with Zero app or a financial advisor to identify your net worth peak, where more money adds little joy. Third, redirect your energy to experiences or giving, like Perkins' Street Bart's party or Feeney's donations. Start by listing one experience you've delayed, maybe a trip or a hobby, and plan it for now, not someday. The goal is to stop climbing when you've got enough and start enjoying the view. As we wrap up, let's revisit Andy Schwartz. His decision to retire early wasn't about quitting. It was about choosing life over more gold. Rule number 8 challenges you to find that same clarity. Whether it's a lavish party, a quiet moment with family, or a cause like Arnold's, know when to stop growing your wealth and start growing your life. Start today. Calculate your peak, pick one experience, and take a step off the treadmill. The mountain's high enough, time to enjoy the view. Rule No. 9. Take your biggest risks when you have little to lose. Seizing the moment. Taking big risks when the stakes are low. Imagine standing at the edge of a cliff, the wind in your hair, a vast horizon ahead. You're young, unburdened, with nothing but dreams in your pocket and a chance to leap into something bold. A new career, a daring adventure, a life-changing move. The voice in your head whispers, "What if I fail?" But another voice counters, "What have I got to lose?" In Die with Zero, Bill Perkins delivers his 9th and final rule. Take your biggest risks when you have little to lose. This rule is a call to embrace calculated risks, especially early in life, to shape a future without regrets. We'll explore the stories Perkins shares and learn how to leap when the timing's right. Perkins, with his energy trader's instinct for calculated bets, knows that risk is the fuel of growth. Rule number 9 builds on the idea of living intentionally. Rule number 6, by urging you to act boldly when the downside is minimal, typically in your youth, when you're free of heavy responsibilities like mortgages, kids, or entrenched careers. He's not advocating recklessness, but smart risks that can yield big rewards, whether it's a new venture, a move across the country, or a personal reinvention. Perkins argues that waiting until you're older, with more to lose, often means missing the window for life's biggest wins. Let's start with a story that brings this rule to life. Mark Cuban. Perkins admires Cuban, the billionaire entrepreneur behind Broadcast.com and the Dallas Mavericks, for his bold moves in his 20s. Fresh out of college, Cuban took a risk by moving to Dallas with little money, sleeping on a friend's floor, and diving into the tech world. He started Micro Solutions, a software company, with no safety net, pouring his energy into learning and hustling. That gamble paid off when he sold the company for $6 million, setting the stage for his later success. Perkins highlights Cuban's story because it captures the essence of rule number 9. In his 20s, Cuban had little to lose, no family to support, no big assets to risk, so he could bet big. Had he waited until his 40s, with a family and obligations, the same move might have been too daunting. Cuban's story resonates because it shows how youth is a season of low stakes and high potential. Perkins explains that your 20s are ideal for risks because you've got time to recover from failures. No money? You can couch surf. No job? You can start over. The downside is minimal, but the upside, new skills, networks, or breakthroughs, can be life-changing. Waiting until later, when you've got a house, kids, or a reputation, raises the stakes, making you risk-averse. Perkins argues that playing it safe can lead to regrets, like those in Bronnie Ware's The Top 5 Regrets of the Dying, where patients wished they'd taken chances on their dreams. Another example is Perkins' own life. In his 20s, he took a leap by moving to New York to work as a screen clerk on Wall Street, earning just $18,000 a year. The city was expensive, the job grueling, but he had little to lose, no dependents, no big assets. That risk paid off, landing him in the high-stakes world of energy trading, where he built his fortune. Perkins contrasts this with older colleagues who hesitated to switch careers or move, fearing they'd lose their savings or status. His early gamble, made when the stakes were low, shaped his path, proving that bold moves in youth can set the stage for a richer life. Perkins also shares the story of Jeff Cohen, known as Chunk from the Goonies. After his acting career as a child star, Cohen faced a crossroads in his 20s. Instead of clinging to fading Hollywood hopes, he took a risk by pivoting to law school, a field where he had no experience. With little to lose, no family, no major investments, he bet on himself, earning a law degree and building a successful career as an entertainment lawyer. Perkins loves this example because Cohen's shift wasn't flashy but bold, made possible by his youth's flexibility. Had Cohen waited until his 40s, with a family or established career, the leap to law school might have felt impossible. A broader example is Perkins' friend John Arnold, the billionaire hedge fund manager who retired in his 30s. Arnold took a massive risk early in his career, diving into energy trading at Enron, then starting his own fund. In his 20s, with no dependents or big losses to fear, he could afford to bet big, building wealth that let him retire early for philanthropy and family. Perkins notes that Arnold's early risks, when he had little to lose, enabled his later choices, like funding education reform. This shows that rule number 9 isn't just about financial risks. It's about any bold move, from career shifts to personal reinventions, timed for when the downside is low. Perkins also reflects on his friend Jason Ruffo, who borrowed $10,000 from a loan shark in his 20s to backpack across Europe. That risky move, debt for a trip, paid off in life-altering memories, from Prague streets to Greek beaches. With no mortgage or kids, Jason's downside was minimal. The upside was a broader worldview and stories that still spark joy. Perkins contrasts this with older people he knows who regret not traveling or taking risks in youth, now tethered by responsibilities. Jason's gamble, made in his low-stakes 20s, embodies rule number 9's call to act when you're free. But what if risk feels scary? Perkins clarifies that rule number 9 is about calculated risks, not blind leaps. He suggests assessing your stakes. In your 20s, you might risk a few thousand on a startup or move. In your 50s, a risk might be a sabbatical, not a career overhaul. He shares how he loves poker, a game of calculated bets, and applies the same logic to life. For example, his hurricane relief efforts in the U.S. Virgin Islands were a risk, time and money with no guaranteed outcome, but one he took when his wealth made the downside negligible. Tools like the Die with Zero app, mentioned elsewhere, can help you weigh risks by simulating financial scenarios, ensuring you don't jeopardize your survival threshold. How do you apply rule number 9? Perkins advises identifying your current season, youth with little to lose or a later stage with fewer obligations, and listing risks that excite you. A new job, a creative project, a big trip. Then, assess the downside. What's the worst that could happen? If it's recoverable, like Cohen's law school or Cuban startup, go for it. Start small if you're hesitant, a side hustle or a short move. Perkins' own poker nights, a low-stakes risk in his 20s, built skills that served him later. The goal is to act when failure won't ruin you, building a life of no regrets. As we wrap up, let's revisit Mark Cuban's leap. Sleeping on a friend's floor, he bet on himself when he had nothing to lose, and it made him a billionaire. Rule number 9 challenges you to find your own cliff and jump, whether it's a career pivot like Cohen, a trip like Jason, or a cause like Arnold. Take your biggest risks when the stakes are low, and you'll build a life rich with possibility. Start today, pick one risk, weigh the downside, and leap. The horizon's waiting.